I wanted to share a real quick video on my experience about diagnosing a battery for the Samsung S4. As you can see, I've taken mine apart already. There's other YouTube videos on how to do that. Just be very careful. There's these little tiny strips on this board here that go underneath the button, and they're attached to the side of the assembly here. So you got to pull those apart before you pull this out, otherwise you will wreck your phone. I mean your watch, excuse me. So don't be very careful about these little strips. They come out pretty easily. They're not really adhered that well, and they'll get right back on there again. Now, this I am trying to zoom in for you, but basically it is a 470 milliamp hour 4.2 volt DC battery. When you measure it with a multimeter, there's the contact points, and if you see there, it'll say negative and positive. And here you have two leads that I very carefully put on top of the pads. When you measure this battery currently, it'll measure 0 volts, which is very suspicious. A battery will always give you some kind of voltage, something. This thing is 0, which these batteries have a thermal switch in them that if there's trouble, or sometimes even an impact, they'll trip, and then it's like having an open in the battery. So when you measure this with a voltmeter, if you get 0, there's definitely a problem, and you're going to have to replace the battery. There's no reset like the 18650 batteries. This thing, there's no way to reset it that I'm aware of. Anyway, the second test you can do, if you want to go a step further, which I wanted to anyway, is through my leads here. I've hooked it up. Why isn't this thing focusing? I apologize. You hook it up to standard benchtop power supply. What you do is you set it up for 1/2 or even a third of the stated milliamp current. So in my case, it's like 470 and change. So I set it to about 200 milliamps limit. And you set it for 4.2 volts as stated on the battery. When you plug this in, a battery that has some form of function, in other words, if a battery is a little beat up or busted, but it hasn't had the thermal switch tripped, you're going to be able to, what will happen is you're going to get some kind of current activity. You're going to get some reading in the current, and the voltage is going to drop considerably. When the voltage reaches 4.2 and the current drops, then what happens is you've reached the capacity of the battery to store current. So now what happens is I'm going to plug this in, and you're going to see that there's not going to be any change, which basically will tell you that the battery is done for. So they can get into there. You'll see here there's no change. What that tells you is that the battery is open on the inside. This battery is now a paperweight and it's got to be replaced. If these values changed, then you may have a battery that's somewhat okay or perfectly fine, and the problem lies elsewhere. Alright, I hope this helped you out.